Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Apologies about the delay, technical difficulties. So thank you again for joining us. I'm Lynn Stevens. I'm with ODOT's Division of Small Business and External Workforce Development. We are glad you are taking time out of your day to join us for our webinar today in our series. In our Transportation and Business and Workforce Development series, we're going to highlight drones and opportunities in the transportation industry. Next slide. As you As you may recall, we have a webinar series and started May 5th, will end on September 29th. And we have a couple more. After today, we'll have two more presentations to finalize our series. So there's a link above there. When you get the PowerPoint, you can just click on the link and get to our webpage. Next slide, or scan the QR code. ODOT's mission. We are here. ODOT is here to support the state highway system and promote transportation initiative statewide. Our mission is to provide a transportation system that is safe, accessible, well-maintained, and positioned for the future. As you may know, ODOT is a more than $3 billion a year enterprise and invests the bulk of its resources in system preservation through maintenance, construction, and snow and ice operations. Our Division of Small Business and External Workforce Development is led by Deborah Green, our Deputy Director, and we have three offices. The Office of Small Business Services, led by Jalita Stoltz, our administrator there, and they handle all things related to DBE, SBE certification, supportive services for our DBEs and SBEs, on-the-job training, external workforce development, Title VI issues, and ADA and Section 504 issues. Our second office is the Office of Contractor Compliance, led by Katie Laplace, and they handle all things related to prevailing wage, certified payroll, prompt payment, DBE, SBE, EDGE goal setting, and our reporting requirements for the DBE and SBE program, goal attainment, good faith efforts, and commercially useful function. Our third office is the Office of Outreach, led by myself, Lynn Stevens, and we are a liaison for businesses seeking to do business with ODOT, already doing business with ODOT, and we're an educational arm. We hold workshops, events, webinars, one-on-one meetings, all related to doing business with ODOT or how to become certified to do business with ODOT. And for those who are DB and Edge firms and have participated in the Development Goal Program, we help to monitor those plans for projects with DBE and Edge development goals. Our Office of Outreach has four outreach managers on our team, and I'm the administrator again. So in Southwest Ohio, we have Tony Perry Gillespie handling ODOT districts 7, 8, and 9. In Northwest Ohio, we have Michelle Newman handling ODOT districts 1, 2, and 3. In Northeast Ohio, we have Jennifer Chris managing ODOT districts 3, 4, and 12. Excuse me, 4, 11, and 12, excuse me. And Lorraine Stevens, our Central and Southeast Regional Outreach Manager, handling districts 5, 6, and 10. If we can ever be of assistance, you have any questions, feel free to reach out to your regional outreach manager and we'll do all we can to assist you. Today's webinar again is on the topic of drones and opportunities in the transportation industry. We have our colleague Dave Gallagher, who will be our speaker today. He's with ODOT UAS Center. So Dave Gallagher, if you would please give us an introduction of yourself, what you do, and then we look forward to your presentation. Thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone. Let me just give you a second to pull this up real quick, and we'll begin. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Dave Gallagher. I'm here today from the UAS Center in lovely Springfield, Ohio. It's a beautiful day. I'm sure it's beautiful for wherever you guys are. So glad to be here. Again, my name is Dave Gallagher. I'm with the Ohio UAS Center. We are part of Drive Ohio, which is our smart mobility hub. So I'm the flight operations manager. I hold a private pilot's license, have my remote pilot's license, and I'm the flight operations manager here at the UAS Center. So we were first formed in 2013, and this was an initiative to take advantage of when the FAA had flight test centers that they're conducting. Ohio was not selected, but the administration at the time decided to go forward with this technology because it was an emerging technology, and it's still emerging to this day. We're still kind of in the beginning, so things are developing at a rapid rate. So our primary function is to support and conduct UAS operations. SUAS stands for small UAS, and that stands for uncrewed aircraft systems. And I'll get more into that in a second. So our primary function is to conduct flight operations. When I say flight operations, small little missions to help bridge inspectors, surveyors, mappers, all the folks that help and build, maintain our transportation infrastructure to make their jobs easier and safer. So we also develop UAS policies and procedures. Again, it's a new technology, new requirements, new laws, new privacy policies, things of that nature. We also have a lot of our contractors who build and maintain our ground infrastructure. They're using this technology as well. So when they want to use this technology at one of their sites and they want to fly off of ODOT right away, there's a procedure process and approval process for that we have them go through to make sure they're maintaining the highest qualities of safety to conduct missions for the public. So we're also an external resource. So we work with other state agencies, other municipalities to help build and conduct operations where needed for their flight operations. A lot of folks are coming online, want to know all the stumbling blocks. We don't want to reinvent the wheel here, so we help a lot of small agencies across the state build their UAS program. We'll talk more about that. And we work with other departments, as I mentioned, the Ohio Department of Agriculture, Ohio Environmental Protection Agency, Ohio Department of Public Safety, Ohio Department of Health, just to name a few, and we'll give some examples as we move here. So I'm not sure what everyone's comfort level is or how much you know about uncrewed aircraft systems. So everyone's familiar with the aircraft. That's the thing that everyone kind of is drawn to. It's a sexy thing out there that everyone kind of sees and knows. But what's really important is the requirements for your operation. What kind of sensors are you going to use? Your mission requirements, what you're trying to do at the end of the day, will drive which sensor you need. So the real value in all this is the data that is gotten off these aircraft. So there's an end user that looks at this data in multiple different ways, whether it's LiDAR, whether it's optical, electrical, whether it's thermal, and we'll get into these sensors as we move on here. But it's the data is the value proposition. We like to refer to these little machines as knowledge delivery machines. So it gives the end user some information in the air using specific sensors to make a decision whether it's about a crack in the bridge, whether it's a survey mission, whether it's a design project. These are knowledge delivery machines. I can't say that enough. So why do we use this technology? So it increases efficiency, increases safety, and it saves the state time and money. So it's a lot quicker to inspect a bridge um, using a small aircraft. Here's a perfect example you can see in this slide here. This is the Veteran City Skyway Bridge in Toledo, Ohio. As you can see, there's some folks climbing up this tall spire here on the bridge. We first started flying this in 2019. That was kind of a light bulb moment for our department. So there was a bolt on top of this spire that sheared off and it hit some glass panels when it was falling. Luckily, it didn't hurt anyone, but we were able to use a drone, take it out of the box, have it airborne in a matter of minutes, and inspect the glass panels. And right away, we know that that there's no issues with the glass panels. There might have been a little crack here and there, but nothing major. So this was able to prove that we could, instead of sending a human up there to take a look at it, we're able to send a small aircraft and get the information we need so we could give that to the end user. So we do a lot of flights here at the UAS Center. We're all across the state, and I'll keep saying this. We have 52 pilots across ODOT flying these small little aircraft. We've logged, this is a little older slide, so we're closer to 20,000 flights in total, and we have over 5,000 little missions that we've done across the state. You can see this heat map that illustrates that pretty well. So a lot of the stuff we use this for include aerial photography and GIS work. Fancy way of saying mapping. Map builders, map makers make this. So we do interior and exterior inspection. Exterior could be pavement, it could be a bridge. Interior could be inside of a building, inside of a bridge, things of that nature. This is a construction season, so we're out there all the time doing the progress reports on construction monitoring. We'll talk more about that as we move on. Traffic monitoring is a big one. So these little aircraft can get a bird's eye view of the traffic and what's going on. And I've got examples of this we'll share as well. So as many of you know, we've had a lot of rain, more rain than we ever had in August, unbelievably. So we've had some natural disasters. We've had a lot of flooding that we've had to respond to. Last Friday, there was a emergency on I-70, and we responded to that, and we're able to live stream all of our data. Live stream it to ODOT Incident Management and also Ohio Emergency Management Agency as well. We're all looking at our live real time as this was happening. We also use it for a lot of communications and promotional videos at ODOT. So if anyone ever watches ODOT's Loop every week, a lot of drone footage is in there. We have 3 pilots inside our communications office. As I mentioned before, we have 52 pilots and growing. So 3 of those folks sit in our communications office. So if you're watching the Loop, you know why and where all those drone videos are coming from. So again, construction season, so there's a lot of work zones. There's a lot happening in work zones. There's a lot of opportunities for something to go wrong or a contractor to make a mistake. So we have the video evidence of what's going on in the work zones, whether it's progress, whether it's contractor's dispute, whether it's maintenance of traffic, things of that nature. A lot of times we do safety funding projects, and I have a slide about that. We'll get more into that. And there's a lot of use cases we run into all the time, such as light poles and road signs, looking at those to see if the bolts are in there. Light poles, for example, those go out. Sometimes they get jammed. One particular incident, we were using a drone to look at a light pole. It wouldn't crank down. And they estimated the light pole was 120 feet. So we were able to measure the height of the light pole was 96 feet, and they were able to use a bucket truck that went up to 100, so we didn't have to rent a special one to go up to 120 feet, which saved money. So we got a twofer out of that one, which we see a lot with these aircraft. And this slide here kind of goes through the aircraft we have. We use these ones at the bottom here primarily now. The gray one on the left, that's our Skydio X10. Um, that's used for a lot of our communications videos, survey mapping. It's got RTK, real-time kinetics, so we can tie into the core system here at ODOT so we get high-level accuracies for design work. The little blue one to the right, we use that for a lot of our bridge inspectors. It's smaller. It's got obstacle avoidance on these aircraft. The obstacle avoidance on these aircraft is unbelievable. You can fly right to a structure, and no matter how you try to crash it into a bridge, it will not do that. It has its own 3D environment that it creates around the aircraft, which keeps it from colliding with things in the environment, such as tree branches or other structures that might be in the area. So they work really well. We've got heavy aircraft that we use for some of our other sensors, and I'll talk more about our sensors, but we have fixed wing aircraft, we've got quadcopters, and we've got tethered aircraft as well. So one of the reasons why we have these large numbers of projects we're doing is because of our drone deployment program. As I mentioned before, we have 52 ODOTers that are using these aircraft. So when someone's interested in our program, the Ohio LTAP has a free drone training course. So it goes through the remote pilot certificate that's administered by the FAA. I think it's about $165, $170, but ODOTers can get that through continuing education funding. So the first step is you go out, you study for your Part 107 remote pilot certificate, again, administered by the FAA. We have the training course for that. So if there's any questions on that, I've got a slide at the end. We'll go more to that. So after someone passes their Part 107 certificate and they get approval from their supervisor, they'll come out to our training facility here in Springfield, and they'll do about 2 half days with us training. It usually takes maybe an hour or so for someone to get fairly proficient on the aircraft. Um, these are fairly easy to fly after a little training. So usually on the first day, folks are proficient enough. The first 2 days, people are proficient enough to take a aircraft back to aircraft they'll be using out in the field, back to his or her garage, yard, district office, whatever the case may be, where they'll continue to work on their solo time of 10 hours total. They're going through our safety management systems, our risk assessments, our flight planning. We have special flight planning software that we have everyone go through to mitigate risk, make sure there's no power lines, they're not flying into airspace they don't have approval for. And a lot of times we have what are called temporary flight restrictions that pop up around ball games, Cincinnati Reds, Bengals, Cleveland, um, Browns, and Guardians games. They'll have these up there. So we got to make sure folks are flying in the appropriate airspace and using the approvals for that. So we have, as I mentioned before, bridge inspectors, surveyors, engineers, communication folks, constructions, folks out of CAD and mapping, and GIS are the primary users of this. And we have several HTs out in the field using it for construction monitoring as well. And I'll talk more about this QR code um, a little bit. So if you're an ODOTer and you want to join our program, you scan this QR code, and that gives us all the information. We'll contact you and start going through the protocols and everything you need to do to start your training program. So what are we using this aircraft for? So a lot of construction work zones, as I mentioned before. It's everything from the progress of the construction project. We can look back at prior setups, make sure everything is set up. We look at stockpile quantities. So if a gravel fill is moving, we have an idea of where the progress is going. We're looking at barrier walls and construction work zones. These barrier walls will change throughout the course of the lifespan of the construction project. We want to make sure those are all set up in a safe manner, where they set up correctly. And we always have disputes with contractors, so we've got visual evidence of what's going on the construction site. And maintenance of traffic patterns, those are always changing. The plans, the layout is everything going according to plan. And also, a lot of our public information officers will ask for videos for this, so they can communicate this out through social media. We also have local governments that want updates, so we'll give them videos to show them what's going on, because everyone wants to know when are the potholes going to be fixed, or when is the construction project going to be done, so we can give them insight of how that is going. So this is one that I like a lot here. This is for safety fund projects. So this is the pre-construction phase. This is scheduled to begin in 2027. So something like this is shouldn't exist anymore. These are very dangerous intersections. We have the crash data to show how dangerous this is. So something like this, we'll put a roundabout in. I think roundabouts are great because there's no head-on collisions. You can have continuous traffic through them. And so again, this is a dangerous intersection. So I believe it's our duty as an agency to make sure that we maintain the highest level of safety construction. We're doing this, and roundabouts are a good way, and we get federal funding for these projects, and we're applying for that. Videos and crash data help support our claim to get funding to, make this safer for our motorists and our citizens of Ohio. So we do a lot of tornado stuff over the years. These were in 2024 as a little video here. I won't show too much of it, but it kind of gives you an idea of the devastation that goes on with these. And we're dispatched through Ohio Incident Response Teams and in coordination with Ohio EMA. This was at in Logan County at Indian Lake. So luckily there weren't any fatalities, but ODOT was tasked with cleaning this up. So we were monitoring the tornado damage to give assessments for Ohio EMA and FEMA, and the governor was able to declare it a disaster area. ODOT was also responsible for the rubble pile. All the debris was on an ODOT property, so we were watching that pile, make sure that everything was going in an orderly fashion as much as you can when it comes to something like this. So there's a lot of dual uses when it comes to weather damage. So this is an interesting one here. This is what we call a mega project here. And I'll run this video here. So this is over the Maumee River up in Toledo. So they're putting in a new bridge. You can see the old one still functioning, but there's a lot of stuff going on here. We've got environmental things going on. We have ice that was forming on the piers. So we were watching that very closely and make sure it wasn't compromising the structure of the piers. Have the new piers going in, the new deck going on here. And then as we advance down here, excuse me, you can see the orange barrels out here. You can see the cranes. You can see contractors' cars. Are those parked in a safe manner? So a construction project manager, instead of driving in his or her ODOT vehicle down this, which is very difficult to see while you're driving. You can use the drone footage and get a lot of information about what's going on in these construction projects. So that's the real value for construction project managers, is seeing what's going on at these sites. So construction progress monitoring. So this is down near the Cincinnati area, um, in the Westchester area. And I'll sound like a broken record with this, but when traffic builds up on the freeways, that's a no-no at ODOT. That leads to traffic incidents, and our duty is again to make this as safe as possible for our motorists. And this is the way construction has changed over the last decade with roundabouts, and these are diverging diamonds designed to move traffic on and off the freeway at a more rapid rate. It's safer for our motorists, and it's less stressful if you can reduce your commute time on and off ramps and on freeways in general. So you can see the progress, and this was started in 2019, and you can see it go through 2020 and all the way to the completion of the project. So we do a lot of construction project monitoring. Another one we do here at Ohio, and this will lead into bridge inspection as well, but we'll talk about bridge construction. So Ohio, I believe it's the second most bridges in any state in United States, second to California, and maybe it's third. I think Texas might be third, but we're definitely in the top three here. So 44 some thousand bridges, always building new bridges. We're surrounded by water with Lake Erie to the north and Ohio River on the southern part of the state. So there's a lot of rivers and streams, creeks and estuaries and watersheds that run through our state. So pavement's another one. I'm showing this one here because it shows an example of 3D mapping and stitching. This is hundreds, if not thousands, of pictures stitched together with the right software and the right individual looking at this. You can move this around to look at really detailed pavement markings and new pavement going in there. So for the right type of individual looking to view this, this works really well um, in the construction process and pavement laying. Our biggest return on investment is bridge inspection. So you can see the snooper truck to the left here. ODOT maintains two of these. They're running year round. You have to schedule those about a year in advance. And when you run these, you have to use a larger crew mount. You have to shut down lanes. And when you shut down lanes, it's more dangerous for our motorists, inevitably causes fender benders frequently. And to avoid that, we can use a drone. Sometimes you can't use a drone, sometimes you can, but when you can, it reduces the amount of personnel you need. So it's cheaper for the state because you don't need to use the traffic control to do that. And you can use 1 to 2 folks instead of using 6 to 10 when you're using snooper trucks such as that. So some of the stuff we look at with bridge inspection is scour assessment, the foot detailing, cracking. How do the piers look? Are they intact? Are there cracking going on there? We also use thermal technology to look at delamination on top of a bridge deck. We can see cracks and surfaces, particularly on cool mornings as it starts to heat up throughout the day. Water and moisture seep into this crack, so they show up really brightly, so we can detect cracks instead of using sounding the traditional method, which is dragging chains across the bridge deck or the bridge deck and listening to the sounds for defects. So this is a more advanced way of looking at that. So here is a bridge spire at the Ohio River. I want to say this is the Grant Bridge, but traditionally you have to climb up a ladder, then rappel out a hatch and rappel down to this spot here. So this is a previously repaired area. You can see the mortar is still holding in there very well. So that bridge is good. We don't have to look at that crack. And again, it took a matter of minutes to bring that aircraft out of its box and get it airborne and take a look at what's going on this bridge. So we can use this technology on all of our bridges. So here's a culvert, it's another one. So these run underneath bridges typically. We're flying a drone with a spotlight camera on it. So you can see it illuminates very well in here. If we were to switch that light off, it would be completely dark in there. And you just see a light at the end of the tunnel. So it's just an aircraft. We also have a robotic dog that goes into these as well. We can talk more about that as well. So another thing that we do, we see it quite often, particularly in the Cincinnati area over the last couple of years, is incidents on bridges. So this is the Brent Spence Bridge. There was a semi carrying potassium hydroxide, a jackknife. So we got a twofer out of this one. So we looked at the bridge, looked for defects, looked at the damage on it from this fire that happened here. Um, so we were able to assess the damage on the bridge. Also, we use it for traffic control. We use it to use existing bridges such as the Big Mac Bridge down there in Cincinnati to move traffic around the city so we could do our best to reduce congestion in this area. We also responded to the Big Mac fire that happened a couple years ago as well. So it seems like a lot of activity down in Cincinnati, and drones help assess what's going on. I already mentioned a little bit of natural disasters. We also have washouts that occur when weather comes in. Obviously, this is a problem for ODOT since we maintain bridges. So we're able to survey this, get an idea of how much fill and what we need to do to repair this. This one was actually in Licking County. And you can see some more tornado stuff over the years. The power of these storms is pretty remarkable, the force of Mother Nature, and we respond to a lot of those. So flooding's another issue we already talked about. So when water gets on a road, we have to be ready to respond to that and and get those freeways up and running. So it could be something as far as drainage. Maybe there's a new culvert that needs to put in there, drainage tiles you need to put in, things of that nature. Um, weather also causes this phenomenon, mudslides. You can see it actually slipping here. This was District 11 on the eastern side of the state in Ohio. You can actually see one of our road crew and our drone operator scurrying away. So here's some more washouts you see here. You can actually see the what it does to it. Um, rock falls are another one that I don't have a slide for that, but rock falls we have a lot of those too associated with the weather. So this slide talks about traffic monitoring. This is a great example. You can't see it in this picture, but freeway traffic is building up the freeway. As I mentioned, that's a no-no, causes accidents. So we are looking at the lights here and we're able to determine the lights were in correct sequence. So just by looking at timing of lights, you get that bird's eye view of everything that's going on here. And we can stream this real time to our traffic folks so they can actually change these light signals from a computer at their office. So this is very valuable for our traffic folks when they're dealing with a congestion issue. And if there's a simple fix like the lights not being timed properly, we can fix that almost immediately. So a lot of benefits for traffic monitoring. So another one we do, I just got a request yesterday for school zones. So if they have a new traffic light, a new means of moving traffic through these school zones, we'll test it out. This particular one was in Springboro, Ohio. So we had 6 aircraft up at once. Over the course of a half a mile stretch of road, 2-lane road, there's 5 schools. So we put in some new mechanisms. We had law enforcement out there and working with the city of Springfield, we're able to speed up the traffic flow by 25%. Might not sound like a lot to you or me, but for the folks of Springboro, they said this really helped with the congestion in the morning and the late afternoon. So another stuff we did over the years, everyone remembers COVID and the mass vaccination sites. So this was in Cleveland at Cleveland State University. So we had the NFL draft going on and we had the max vaccination sites. So we had a lot more traffic in the city of Cleveland than we normally would. So we were looking at traffic flows, we were looking at parking in conjunction, working with the NFL, FEMA, and the Ohio National Guard on this one. Here's another COVID one too. So this is kind of special to us because this is one of the first night operations in the United States. So this is Christmas lights in Cincinnati. So typically people walk through the Christmas lights, but during COVID, they were in their vehicles and surprise, it caused issues on the freeway. So we are there to help speed up and maintain the traffic flows around this area. So we have the ability to stream all of our drones into the OGO system, the milestone system. Everyone knows and loves at your local TV broadcast through the ODOT cameras. You can see in the upper right, this is the Jeremiah Morrow Bridge. We videoed it when it was being demolished, so we were able to capture that in real time for our folks to have situational awareness so they can make decisions about what's going on in those areas. So again, anywhere in the state of Ohio, we basically have mobile pole cameras that we can put up anywhere in the state as long as we have internet connection. So all the stuff I talked about before is was pictures and videos, but we actually can use design level um, work for this design level surveying. So this is a new on and off ramp. In this particular case, we had contractors removing rock face off there. So we're able to get high levels of accuracy for rubble removal. This is important for ODOT because contractors love to charge by the truckload, and the rubble decompacts when it's off the surface. So they are able to get more money and fill up a truck. So we're able to keep them on us a little more and see about the true value of rock and rubble coming off the freeway here. Another example, this is kind of like using virtual reality at your fingertips. This is a new intersection that's being designed. The old stringer arms, or typically we will replace these with the steel mast arms you'll see going up everywhere. But everything in this photo has to be measured. And traditional methods at ODOT of measuring this stuff is using a pole to measure everything. Well, we can measure everything by using a 3D map, orthomosaic pictures here, stitch them all together, and we can measure all the telephone lines, the cable lines, the stop signs, the traffic signs, and the signage here for the street lights here. We can measure all that stuff. And design folks love this because they don't have to go out to the site. They can go back to their computer and look at it basically in virtual reality and do all the design work they need to do, he or she needs to do for this. So I mentioned some sensors we use. So some of the sensors we use are typical electrical optical, which are just a video camera. We have the thermal camera. I showed you an example of that. We also have a radiation detection module sensor. So we partnered with the Ohio Department of Health. We actually have a decommissioned cobalt site in northern Ohio. We're actually flying tomorrow, working with the Ohio Department of Health, making sure it's cleaned up and there's no radiation emitted from this cleanup site. Another project we do in the upper right, orphan wells. So in the late 1800s and early 1900s, all the farmers were drilling for oil. This particular picture is at Grand Lake St. Mary's. That was the first offshore drilling of oil anywhere in the world, and that was at Grand Lake St. Mary's. So we use basically what they call a magnetometer. That's a fancy way of saying metal detector. So what that does is we measure the Earth's magnetic field, and large metal objects will disrupt the magnetic field. So it'll give us a little blip on our screen here, and we know there's a orphan well there. It could be a vehicle, it could be a submerged vehicle. More than likely, it's going to be um, a, a wellhead. So we give that information to the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, and they'll either go out there and plug it or contract someone to go plug it up. Excuse me. So other sensors we have got a multispectral. We can kind of look at differences in the dirt levels and vegetation. If there's a drainage tile or a septic tank, we can see a deviation in the surface, how the surface picture looks. We have LiDAR using multiple laser beams, millions of laser beams going in the area. You can see some LiDAR on the upper right here, working with environmental folks at Ohio Department of Transportation, looking at the Indiana brown bat. This is an abandoned rail tunnel, so the Indiana brown bat is thriving there. So the folks in their environmental division wanted to know what about this area is making the bats thrive, is the word I'm trying to use. Is it the vegetation? Is it the tunnel itself? What about this area? So we give that data to those folks, and they interpret the information they're seeing. We also have a aircraft airborne on the bottom left that has a radio detector. So there's folks that will put a transmitter on a bat, then look to see where it's moving. We can use a drone to look at that. We also have ground penetrating radar that we use. So if we're looking at septic tanks, we're putting in a roundabout. We don't want to hit the septic tank, so we'll look at stuff around a roundabout, looking for drainage tiles and any utilities that might be in the ground that we want to avoid hitting, or at least marking them so we need them in case we need to move them. So we also have fixed wing aircraft. We have beyond visual line of sight. So typically, if you're a Part 107 remote pilot, you have to keep the aircraft within visual line of sight. So we've been at this a while. So we have waivers through the FAA where we can take these aircraft beyond visual line of sight and conduct larger operations. Yeah, how am I doing on time? Okay. So we also have these small boats we use using side scan sonar, and these are working out magnificently for us. So what we're looking at here is a bridge pier. So when a river's flowing in a particular direction, on the opposite side, it causes these scour holes, and they can be some 30 feet deep. So that could compromise the integrity of the bridge pier. So we'll identify these folks, and ODOT will put large boulders around the pier so it keeps it from deteriorating the bridge pier. So we identify a lot of these, and we've seen some holes some 30 feet deep, so they get pretty deep sometimes. So it's important that we find these and seal them all up. Here's just a few examples. Let's see if I have a video here. I don't think the video worked for this one. Whoops. But this is Ohio EPA site here. We're doing volume calculation. This was a company was in the business of recycling homes, and they went out of business and left this very large pile of rubble here. This was 3 stories tall, so we were able to make a calculation for Ohio EPA. This ultimately ended up costing the state $10 million to clean up, which is unfortunate, but we were able to get in the data that they needed to do this project, which is fortunate. So we have more technology that we're using here called drone in the box. We have 3 of these boxes currently at ODOT. We have 2 of them sitting down the Brent Spence Bridge, which is Ohio's largest construction project. So we're doing active monitoring of the project pretty much daily here. And along down there, Cincinnati Police Department has 22 of the same type of docks they're using to respond. We'll talk more about this because we have a project we're using across the state with first responders. And this was we have, as I mentioned, we've got one of these dock systems. So we first tested this dock system out with Caltrans, our counterpart in California, and we were flying these aircraft from California. Um, and if we have time, I can demonstrate one, but this is at our facility here flying it. So if I got time, I will do a quick flight for you, but we'll determine that at the end here. So as I mentioned before, we have a project with first responders called the Drone for First Responders program. So this was created last year under Ohio House Bill 96 to support the use of law enforcement, fire departments, and emergency medical services. The Drone First Responders program utilized the drone in the box solution to reach emergency before ground units can get there. So a lot of times, if a first responder is going to a scene, they have trouble getting to the site because of traffic issues. If it's an accident or it's a dangerous situation, we can send in these aircraft in a city to look at, see what's going on, so we can send the appropriate medical or first response service to that area. So this is a statewide program. ODOT was commissioned to do this by the state legislature, as I mentioned. So the objectives are to to prep for a statewide first responder drone program, um, and working with the FAA to create data to see how this is going. So let me see so our objectives are to first acquire assets for first responders. These are drone in the box. We had four vendors that the folks were able to choose from, and they're integrating this into the national airspace system, which is important because this is a new technology, and ultimately want to develop a comprehensive plan for this. So we the timeline of this is about a year ago. We did a call out for first responders statewide, um, and we were selecting 8. So we selected 8 cities and municipalities around the state. February of earlier this year, and March of this year, the first responder folks were in the acquisition phase. They selected their equipment, and they were in acquisition till June when they began operations. So the folks across the state are in operational phase. So at the end of next year, or I'm going to say actually in June of 2027, we'll compile all this data. We'll hand it back to the state legislature and see what the results were. This could be a program that goes further statewide, more so than the 8 selected. So here are the 8 selected. We had 126 folks around the state. We're only able to select 8 of them. So City of Springfield, Lima Police Department, Toledo Police Department, Violet Township Fire and EMS, Austintown Fire Department, the City of Hamilton, Amherst Police Department, and the Village of Kelly's Island were the ones selected for this pilot program. So the vendors that are selected were Skydio, which is the brand that we're using, Brink, Parrot Drone Sense, and Nightingale Security Drones. So those were the ones that we selected, and we're actually in the process of acquiring this mobile unit where we can roll it out to. It does have a little video sound. Turn that down a little bit. But essentially, what this is a drone in a box that's in a trailer that we can respond anywhere in the state. So we can roll up to a construction site and plop that out there and begin our operations. Or for like Ohio State game, or if there's a natural disaster, we can roll this out at a site instantaneously, and we can power it up and fly it for several days as needed. So everything you saw was the operation side of the house. When I say operation, is actually deploying these small aircraft and using them to collect data that's useful. Our other project we're doing here at the USA is the Fly Ohio initiative. And this is where we're bringing in folks who are testing air taxi. We have a partnership with the Air Force Research Laboratory and the Air Force at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. So we have this special radar system that utilizes 3 existing radars. So if you fly out of John Glenn International, Dayton International, there's obviously radar systems there for air traffic control. We're using those feeds along with a long-range security radar system in London, Ohio. So across the United States, it's hard to find 2 radars within 90 miles of each other. We have 3 radars within 60 miles of each other in an area that our test site is flat. So we're able to see manned air traffic. So if we're flying an air taxi, we have air traffic controllers that are sitting in this RV here, and we're making sure that those folks aren't colliding with manned aviation. So we're detecting manned aviation. So if we have an air taxi that's flying and doing some testing, we can flick traffic and make sure everyone's operating safe. And here's one of the results of our radar system. We sit out at Springfield Beckley, which is owned by the city of Springfield. Ohio National Guard sits out there, and they operate these MQ9 Reapers overseas, and there's 2 ground control stations. And we're also bringing the hardware, these big MQ9 Reapers that everyone's familiar with. These um, they carry missiles overseas, and they gather intelligence stuff. So our excuse me, our radar system allows us to bring these big aircraft in. So our future vision with this is, you can see the spots in green here. These are our test sites where we have the radar system here. We also have this corridor up by Columbus where the Transportation Research Center is. That's North America's largest proving ground for automotive testing. So Honda's out there, Mazda's out there using the road tracks. There's a big oval out there. It's 8 miles long. To give you some context how big it is at, Indianapolis 500 runs on a 2.5-mile course. This is a 7-mile oval, so it's absolutely massive facility out there. The red line you see is a future endeavor that the medical delivery is interested in using. So that red line runs from Cincinnati, Columbus to Cleveland. So the idea is to launch drones at hospitals where there's a helipad. The drone can fly, or air taxi carrying kidneys is the use case that they're looking at heavily, because kidneys are really expensive, and Ohio does the most kidney transplants of any state in Ohio. So if you're able to move a kidney from Cincinnati, say, to Cleveland, you'd fly on this corridor. And there's a large incentive for moving kidneys, A, because they're expensive, and B, if you can move a kidney faster from one host to another one. If it takes 20 hours to move a kidney, that kidney might last 4 or 5 years. But if you can move a kidney within 2 to 3 hours and put in a new host, that kidney can last 20 years, let's say. So medical delivery is will be huge in the future as we roll on through the years. So here's a look at some of the folks using our SkyVision system. So we have Beta Aircraft. They're an air taxi company. They have a vertical takeoff and landing aircraft that can switch to forward flight. We have Reliable Robotics, which use existing aircraft that puts automation technology inside existing aircraft. We have Electra here that was just announced 2 weeks ago that they're building a facility here at Springfield and you testing this aircraft at our facility. Bottom left, you'll see a Joby here. Air Taxi, they're building a manufacturing facility at Dayton International Airport and likely will be testing here in the near future. You can see the bottom middle, that's Ondas. They have a aircraft they use. This is a trainer aircraft. It's out here at Springfield. They just moved here to Springfield as well. They'll be working with the Ohio National Guard testing this aircraft and training folks on it. And the bottom right, you'll see a company called Moog. They have autonomous technology they put in helicopters, which is the one I kind of see moving medical supplies from hospital to hospital uh, with its vertical takeoff and landing capability as helicopters do. Um, So as I mentioned before, for the listeners tuning into this, ODOT offers training. So if you work for the state of Ohio, you can go to My Ohio account. If you don't have a My Ohio account, anyone across the United States can use this by using the LTAP at the bottom here. If you just use a Google search, just put ODOT LTAP UAS training, it'll pop up and anyone can take this again. So if you're interested in flying drones or know someone that wants to get the remote pilot certificate, this is a very good program um, to learn how to fly drones and prepare yourself for the Part 107 FAA exam, which is a 60-question exam. And if anyone has questions, you can certainly email me. Also, too, for if there's any small businesses out there, you can scan this QR code and I'll collect your information. I can pass this on to Lynette. And if there's any contractors out there looking for drone operators, I can share this information with those folks as well. So I'll leave
David,
this up. Yes,
I
yes.
was going to say we do have one question.
Okay.
Okay. The one question we have is, do you have any issues acquiring drones due to the current Buy America, Build America requirements? If so, is this restricting drone purchases?
Yes, that's an excellent question. So we here at the Ohio Department of Transportation, we're precluded from operating, let's say, DJI and Chinese aircraft. We receive federal funding from the majority of our construction projects, so we're not allowed to use Chinese aircraft. And the aircraft we're using right now is the Skydio. It's American-made aircraft. And one of the issues that we run into is um, the U.S. drone market was not really prepared for this, and U.S. manufacturers are lagging behind, let's say China. We were only able to use these aircraft commercially in 2016. So it's only been 10 years since folks were able to use these aircraft for commercial purposes. So a typical U.S. company, rightfully so, is not going to develop a product that they can't really use and profit off it. So we're just now getting to the stage where there's a big demand for US made drones. So over the next 2, 3, 5 years, you're going to see a lot more US products out there, but it makes it very difficult for folks, depending on who these folks are and what line of work they're in, to use Chinese aircraft. Defense folks, you can't use these at defense facilities. We do a lot of drills and um, drills with Ohio National Guard. We have to use special aircraft. They're on the blue list. So if you can see aircraft on blue list, a lot of times aircraft on the blue list, they're really expensive and they don't quite work as reliably as the Chinese aircraft. So we're kind of at a unusual state here in the drone industry and the drone markets here. So we're just gonna have to wait and see. But again, we're using Skydio for the time being. They're a little more pricey, but they work really well. So that's what we're using. But I feel the pain for purchasing. It's an issue right now, and we're just gonna have to get through this as time rolls on and more aircraft come online. So hopefully that answers that question. And if there's more follow-on question, you can ask me. I'll give my email here in just a second and email me or call me. So here's my
Okay.
contact. Yeah, is there any other questions out there?
Yes, there is. Just one more.
Okay.
Are there opportunities for small businesses to provide drone services to ODOT as a subcontractor?
Yes. So we have a contract system where we have a handful of drone folks that are on that contract. So we kind of operate how ODOT does with towing and snow removal. We have a certain capacity of at our disposal we can use. So if we reach our capacity, we can contract a workout. So there's not a ton of us, at least here at the UAS Center. We have a lot of district pilots, but the district pilots are out doing their daily jobs, so they can't respond to the stuff we can. So if we have a lot of that drone activity, we can contract it out. And I had that QR code up. I can put it back up. If folks are interested, I can give you the information to put it on the list for the use for ODOT. And also, contractors are using these drones out in the field. So if they have someone that they need to do and they call us up to, hey, who's out there flying drones? I can send them the list and be like, these are the folks, I haven't worked with them all, but here's a list of folks for you to evaluate, ask your questions, and everything you need to do to make sure that, they're operating within your safety parameters and your safety management systems inside your standard operating procedures. Yes. So we'll collect that information.
Alrighty. Well, I don't see any other questions, so just want to thank everyone for attending. And for our next webinar, we have on September 1st, we'll be focusing on, it'll be part of the workforce development portion. So we're going to talk about soaring impacts through Journey Still, a small business in the Southwest Ohio area, and their partnership for a pre-apprentice program targeting underserved youth and how they expanded that to include drone training. So Barb Smith, probably her son Daniel Smith, will be with Journey Still, and Easter Seals of Greater Cincinnati will have a representative also to speak. So that'll be September 1st at 1 p.m. And again, thank you for attending. And we will send out the recording, the PowerPoint to the attendees after we get that edited and added to our website. So thanks once again. Have a great day, and hopefully we'll see you again on September 1st. Take care.
Thank you, everyone. That was fun.
Thank you. Dave, thank you.